I think psychedelic drugs have definitely influenced my artwork and my practice and just my life in general. There's certain images directly came from a drug called DMT.
Yeah.
Like one experience with DMT where like you'll see like oftentimes in my art there'll be like a grid mouth, a
Mm-hmm.
mouth with like multiple rows of teeth,
Mm-hmm.
and that came from like a psychedelic experience. And then when I started looking at other art, like Mayan art or like even Egyptian art, I'll say, oh, look, there's grid like teeth.
Yeah.
And so that connection, like seeing that imagery from like a kind of like a life, I mean like a birth or death scenario with this drug, and then going back and seeing like ancient historic images that have connections like that made me feel comfortable and made me feel like, okay, sick, this is like something that I can rock with, that like that will make me feel connected to whatever this thing is, life, death, history, art, whatever it is. So yeah, a lot of psychedelic. I don't use drugs anymore, but I fuck with them. Like I'm down.
Yeah.
Like
If you don't mind me asking, like
yeah.
when you took DMT, what kind of form was it? Did you smoke it, or you did an ayahuasca ritual?
No, I smoked DMT maybe in like 2009 with a friend without any, like I bumped into a friend. I didn't know anything about DMT, and they said, "Hey, let's smoke this DMT. It's really 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 strong." I'm like, ah. I used to be very open minded when it came down to shit. Like fuck it, yeah. So we just went and he's like, smoke it and hold it in for as long as you can and exhale. And like did that and like exhale, like instantly, like soul shot out of the top of my head and like
Instantly.
instantly, like and like time out the window. No concept of time, and I'll try to remember because it was a while ago. And then like my soul kind of like shot out into this mathematical grid, which was kind of like the lines of energy that create almost everything, I guess. And through these grids was kind of like a track, like a uh, almost like a roadway,
Yeah, like a
and then
tunnel.
a tunnel or like almost like a highway. And then on that highway there's like a lot of other energy things I couldn't remember, but I saw certain images like a trickster like laughing face, which was very comforting and humorous to me, that was maybe like beckoning these other energies in myself to like come through. And I saw that kind of like there was I could see that through this energy, through these lines of energy, there was like a recyclage of like of this energy that maybe makes up all of us in the universe or whatever. And then it made me very feel comforted that like, okay, if I were to die right now, which was what maybe it felt like maybe my soul had just left my body, and then like, not in a scary way, but in like a, okay, there's a body and there's a soul and they can be separated. And like so if I were to continue down this road, I would go to where everything else was going, and I would be recycled back through into all this energy. My energy would recycle through, and it was super comforting. I was laughing I think I was laughing the whole time, but it felt like very comforting. Like, oh, it's okay. It's okay if you die. It's okay to die, as far as like energy wise. As far as like your energy, like it's obviously sad, and it's not really that aspect of death. It's more like the energy portion of death for me felt like, okay, it's not so scary. It's very natural. You'll go back into this kind of like energy process, and you'll just come back around.
So you feel like it's you had a vision of, let's say, reincarnation?
I think so. Yeah. It wasn't like, okay, you're gonna come back as like a squirrel or a fucking like. It just seemed like, okay, there's like a natural process to this all, and it's very based on energy. And like I said, I didn't go like too far there wasn't like much explanation. In fact, it was like the opposite of explanation. It just felt very comfortable to be like, okay, like there is some like formula to this thing. There's some mathematical thing, but mostly I was just focusing on these kind of images, like like the trickster, like a running type of like panther like creature, and then all sorts of other like energy type of characters that were quite funky. And maybe that's just my brain's like take on the shit, you know, but I looked at some of the other people's like recollections of DMT, like heavy psychedelic DMT trips, and they were similar
Yeah, that's what
aspects.
I've heard that as well. A lot of people have very similar experiences, and like I know that when you take I haven't taken it. I don't plan to, but I know that when you take it, the chemical in your brain that gets released is the same one as when you pass away.
Yeah, or born, or maybe when you dream, to a certain extent. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Born and dream. I didn't know that.
I think so.
I thought it was just when you die.
Well, if it's when you die, according to this fucking trip, it's when you're born too. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all psychedelic. I never really had like any sort of like deeper, like from maybe acid or mushrooms. All that shit seemed like partying, but this one seemed like something different. This seemed like okay, and I never did it again. It was only one time thing. I saw it, I fucked with it, I enjoyed it, and I never cared to do it again. I don't feel like I ever would need to do it again until the time that it comes naturally out of my brain. Yeah.
You said you don't do any more drugs anymore?
No, I kind of like cashed in on my party points when it comes to drugs and stuff. I kind of like had my run. Definitely, my war on drugs definitely like didn't end very positively for me. And then I just kind of like, I just had to stop using drugs. I'm like an all or nothing type of dude. Like when it comes down to like anything, if we're going, if I'm painting this thing I'm gonna paint it, and I'm not gonna like stop. I'm not gonna like paint it half, or if there's like I'm missing a color, I'm gonna go get the color and finish it right now. Or I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability of what I have, and that's gonna be it. Like if it comes down to like drinking or drugs, I'm doing all of it right now, and and then it just kind of comes down to like, okay, you can't do it. There's like it'll there's infinite amount of drugs and alcohol. So yeah, I haven't used drugs maybe like almost 5 years, and it's been like the most positive time for me. Like I was pretty reckless guy when it comes down to using and stuff, and also like my relationship with like death, like I was saying before, and life and death like weren't very clear when I was younger, especially when I was using drugs or alcohol. So it all got kind of muddy and honestly pretty depressing.
What do you mean by your relationship with life and death?
Well, like I used to think like, oh, okay, if I die or whatever, fucking, like big deal. I'm just kind of like here for a fucking good time, not a long time. And now I realize once kind of like I got out of this long haze, like I was getting fucked up since I was a little kid, maybe 12 or 13. Once I got kind of away from that a little bit, I realized, damn, like life is a fucking huge gift, like the greatest gift ever. Like life is the most special thing that you possibly can have. So for me to be like, oh, I reject that. I think life's kind of like whatever. It's a game, and if I die, I die. That's a fucking lie and some bullshit. Like life's so cool, life's so fresh, and like
also so fragile.
Yeah, like your friends start fucking dying and shit gets mad real, and like people you look up to and fucking people start dying. You're like, what does this mean? And then eventually you get out of the haze of it and you're like, dude, there's no, I'm comfortable with dying, but I don't want to fucking die.